rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Got a lot to get to today. I got, first of all, to kick things off, I have evidence that, of course, the Democrats are just absolutely violent, horrible people. And they only wish violence and horribility stuff on because they aren't getting their way. They're like toddlers with a frickin' temper tantrum going on. And yesterday's show, I tried to keep my tone down, my temper down, but man, they are seriously sick, disgusting human beings, and I haven't figured out anything in terms of, I can't figure out how so much hate and horrible can be in one package, but they do. And every single day they kind of show it and they prove it. And yeah, there we go. All right. I also have some thoughts on the recent comments by the Department of Justice and the FBI with regards to Epstein. And Elon wants to start a third party, a political party. So, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Tonight we start off with the Pledge of Allegiance done by none other than 3 Chevy. 3 Chevy is on tap for tonight, so if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat, and place your hand over your heart and follow along with 3 Chevy as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, 3 Chevy, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your recitation or version of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge or reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and send it off to me. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. All right, and tonight's headline sponsor is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government, as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. This has got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant, and no cheap glue here, folks. It is bound by string They stitched it all the way through, the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against manufacturing and material defects, such that if you have a problem, you can send it back to the manufacturer within that time frame, and they will either fix it or replace it for free. My Whiskey Warrior P1s all know this has sexy rounded corners. The amendments are in Roman numerical order. It is Democrat repellent. I got to find me a Democrat and hand them this and see if they can destroy it. But anyway, makes a great, fantastic heirloom for your family, according to one of the OG Whiskey Warrior P1s, Buddy Weiser. And speaking of Buddy, it is Buddy tested, Buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for your civics badge in scouting. It'll also help you study for your civics exam. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. Also, check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. They have some fantastic books. Like I told you the other night, they just put out a wonderful class a class book on the Declaration of Independence for the 250th anniversary of our wonderful and fantastic country that we call home. And, so you can go and pick that up. It was for $17.76. I don't know if it's still there. I didn't check that, but it was, I think it's regularly $25 or something like that. So anyway, I'm waiting for my instructor kit to show up. I know it's on the way. It's on its way, so it should be here, hopefully, by the first part of next week. But anyway, go to IOTC.AmericanPerspective.online to check out all of their stuff, or go to Constitution.AmericanPerspective.online to get your Constitution and support the show. I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate of theirs. All right. So, first things first, man, those Democrats, especially those Democrat people, all of the quote-unquote grassroots stuff. If you ever thought that Democrats were like nice people, I mean, realistically, you should know by now that they're not. They claim to be the ones that are tolerant. They're not tolerant. They claim to be the ones that aren't racist, yet they want to use race as a primary concern for getting people not only jobs, but loans, grants, etc. And they hate the Constitution. They hate conservatives. They hate Christians. And they hate white males over the age of 40. Actually, they hate all white males, to be honest with you. Which is, that's kind of par for the course. But, especially nowadays. But now they're even calling, and by the way, they do call for violence. They call for rioting in the streets. They call for all of that. But now they are physically asking and mentioning to their Democrat representatives, hey, guess what? You guys need to get shot to be part of the anti-Trump resistance. Let me say that again. These Democrats, grassroots Democrats, want their representatives to go and get shot in order to prove something in the anti-Trump resistance. I mean, seriously, this is some wild crap. But here it is, Axios, left wing, man, I'm telling you. So, apparently, they had some town halls in several districts and also in one-on-one meetings with constituents and activists. That's the problem, is they're activists. But here's the thing. So, they were going around and asking people, essentially, hey, what's going on? And the House Democrats responded to Axios and said, they see a serious growing anger among their base that has morphed into a disregard for American institutions, political traditions, and even the rule of law. Seriously. The one Democrat said that this idea that we're going to save every norm and that we're not going to play Republicans' game, I don't think that's resonating with the voters anymore. Yeah. So Axios spoke to, according to them, 24 House Democrats for this story, many requesting anonymity to offer candid insights about their interactions with constituents and activists. Yeah. So here's one. This guy actually went on record. Brad Schneider, he's a Democrat from Illinois, and he's chair of the center-left New Democrat Coalition, told Axios, "We've got people who are desperately wanting us to do something. No matter what we say, they want more." Apparently, liberal voters have angrily accosted Democrats at town halls for not doing enough to counter President Trump's agenda. So now Democrats are doing more. They are upping the ante. They're mounting, they're heckling Trump, mounting rogue impeachment attempts. That was, Al Green or whatever his freaking name was. And that other, I don't know, no-name dude. I don't even know his name. The other guy. Anyway, getting tackled by law enforcement, even indicted. Yeah, these are the radical left. The radical left, folks. And what they're hearing is that the grassroots want more than this. So, a third House Democrat told Axios that some of the grassroots have suggested what we really need to do is be willing to get shot while visiting ICE facilities or federal agencies or whatever. A lawmaker said, our own base is telling us that what we're doing is not good enough, that there needs to be blood to grab the attention of the press and the public. A fourth House Democrat said constituents have told him that civility isn't working and to prepare for violence to fight to protect our democracy. A fifth person told Axios that people online have sent me crazy shit, told me to storm the White House and stuff like that. Although that same person added that there's always people online in the internet saying crazy stuff. Folks, these people are just bonkers. You cannot reason with a Democrat at all. You can't, because there is no way to reason and provide logic, truth, facts, evidence to the left. They are gone. They've lost it. So, somebody else, a sixth Democrat, said that when they try to persuade voters to channel their frustration into a focus on winning back Congress in 2026, people who are angry don't accept that. They're angry beyond things. That's right. They are angry beyond thinking. Another lawmaker said it's like the Roman Colosseum. People just want more and more of this spectacle. So if you think that things over the course of the next 3 and roughly 1.5 years are going to get any easier or any better or any less, yeah, not going to happen. Another Democrat said, what I have seen is a demand that we get ourselves arrested intentionally or allow ourselves to be victims of violence. And a lot of time that's coming from economically very secure white people. Really? Really? Yeah. Yeah. Same person said not only would that be a gift to Donald Trump, not only would it make the job of Republicans in Congress easier if we were all mired in legal troubles, we are a group that is disproportionately people of color, women, LGBTQ people, people who do not, now listen to this, people who do not fare very well in prison. Yeah. Bottom line is, according to Axios, that the expectations aren't just unreal, they're dangerous, said an eighth House Democrat. A ninth one said, I actually said in a meeting, when they light a fire, my thought is to grab an extinguisher. And someone at the table said, have you tried gasoline? Folks, these people, I'm telling you, these people, they are unhinged. They are completely unhinged. These people seem to believe that their version of democracy, which, by the way, is not anywhere near a democracy, but their version of democracy is the version that the Constitution actually has in it, because none of them have actually picked one up or even read it. These people are completely unhinged. Keep your head on a swivel, folks, if you live in a state like I do. Yeah, I keep waiting. I keep waiting for my display of flags to get screwed with. Thankfully, nobody has done it yet. But yeah. They are coming unhinged. And the more that Trump does, the more that Trump wins. Speaking of which, Trump just won another SCOTUS victory. That's right. SCOTUS is going to allow Trump to actually fire federal workers. Remember that case that went to the Supreme Court trying to stop him from firing federal workers? Yeah, that's SCOTUS has said, nope, that's none of my concern. So, yeah. And if you want to get a feeling of how a leftist-run country in America would be, all you have to do is look north of the border. Yep, look north of the border. Here in Blaze Media, Canadian government seizes a hospice center when the staff refuses to allow euthanasia. Glenn Beck spoke with a Delta Hospice Society executive director, Angelina Ireland, about Canada's growing fascism. Yep, you want fascism? You want that? Go north. I'm serious. That and this is seriously. I mean, this is so bad. So they wanted, because Canada has decided to legalize active euthanasia, which is the practice of ending a patient's life by administering a lethal drug or a substance, usually by a physician at the patient's request. People in Canada don't even need a terminal illness, by the way. They don't even need a terminal illness to request it. Just some incurable condition they claim causes unbearable suffering. And yet, here they are. So apparently this hospice center basically said, we didn't want to do this. And Angelina Ireland was on the show. She shared a gruesome story of how her palliative care company became the victim of Canadian fascism. Wait a minute. I thought Canadians were like the most liberal. Yeah, no. So the Canadian government said, hey, either you kill people at their request or we take you over. And they did. They took them over because the company said, no, we don't want to just kill people for no reason. We don't want to end somebody's life just because they want it. We don't want that. Yeah. So there you go. You want to head north and be part of fascism? There you go. That's where the left is heading, people. The left wants this kind of stuff. They want the government to take care of you. They want the government to tell you what to do, where to go, who to see, where to work, how much money you can make, what you can spend your money on. They want all of that. That's what leftism does to you. And I can tell you, they are already angry. They are angry with their own representatives who, ironically, really do have the law tying them up. They are the minority party, and they have some serious problems with doing anything or taking control of anything. This is ridiculous. Now, outside of that, we do have some positives that are coming down the way in terms of our economic and the choices that our economies are being made. If anybody wants to know what radical changes to your economy can do, all you have to do is look south. Look south of us to Argentina. Because Milei is defying all kinds of critics. And his country, he did a staggering turnaround. This is a guy that was running around with a chainsaw on TV saying he was going to slash all kinds of government. And he did so. He did so. And his achievements are nothing short of miraculous. In November of 2023, by the way, this is coming out of the Daily Wire. In November of 2023, Argentina's inflation rate had soared to 211.4%, and the country itself had a poverty rate of 41.7%. 19.5 million people live below their poverty line. Ironically, just before the November election, The Guardian had wrote about a letter signed by more than 100 economists warning that electing Milei would bring devastation to Argentina. Now, here's where, all of these experts, all of these people who are sitting here and jumping on the bandwagon of, hey, we're experts. If anything, if COVID and any of all this has shown, these experts are no longer the go-to source of ideas. That these experts are literally out of their water. They're like fish out of water. They have no idea what the heck's going on here. The Daily Economy and the guy named Emmanuel Rincon noted this in the Daily Economy. He said, through an aggressive program of public spending cuts, eliminating bureaucracy, and reducing public sector jobs, Milei erased Argentina's massive fiscal deficit, paving the way for a historic economic recovery. To give you some stats, by May of 2025, the inflation rate had plummeted to 43.5%, down from 211.4%. The consumer price index rose 1.5%, marking the lowest levels in 5 years. Wholesale prices dropped by 0.3% just in May by itself, the best in number in 17 years. Rincon wrote, these achievements are no fluke. They stemmed from a clear strategy: fiscal balance, reduced public spending, ending monetary expansion as a financing tool, and economic deregulation. Folks, this kind of plan is what Trump is focused on. Now, he may not be doing all of this, but this is what he is talking about. It has been proven through time over and over again. You cut taxes, cut regulation, cut government spending, and you end up with an economy that is going to boom. This kind of stuff is proven. It's been proven to work multiple times. We have got to get government smaller and smaller and smaller. The Democrats' idea, the leftist liberal idea, is to grow government, get it bigger, bigger, and bigger. And what do you think it did? FDR increased it when he added all kinds of government programs and everything else, thinking that he was going to save the Americas from the Great Depression. Further analysis afterward has shown and demonstrated that he actually extended the Great Depression by about 12 years, they estimate, because he did what he did. Government itself is the factor, the bad factor. Folks, this equation is not that hard to figure out. The problem is you have a group of people who have been basically attached to the teat of the government and the public dole for so long that they have forgotten how to survive on their own. And in Argentina, if you really want to see how this stuff works, just look to Argentina. You are seeing historic accomplishments happen in real time. And this is where we need to be. We maybe not have to do all of the cuts that Milei is doing, because believe it or not, we're nowhere near that level just yet. But give the Democrats another shot at the House, at the Senate, and at the presidency, and I guarantee you we will see stuff like this. Maybe not as drastic, but we will definitely see stuff like this. We have turned the ship away from what is potentially could have been the cliff. We cannot allow them to get control back and wrest control away from us and take us back to the cliff again. Socialism does not work. Communism does not work. It has been shown to not work at all. It sounds like a great idea. In theory, it looks absolutely wonderful. But in practice, in reality, in the real world, it does nothing but bring pain, angst, and horrible conditions. And Milei is proving that in real time in Argentina. The proof is in the numbers and everything else that he's got going on. Milei is looking to open the nation's economy by utilizing its oil resources through drilling. He wants to transform Argentina into a major oil producer and reshape an economy built on farming. Going to take a little bit, but should he succeed in generating new oil wealth, he might manage to heave Argentina from its economic quagmire and persuade voters to keep backing his vision. That was according to Bloomberg. That was according to Bloomberg. All right. Let me go ahead and tell you about this wonderful thing known as coffee. Yes, coffee. I have it every morning. It's a great thing. I have this big cup, like I said, I've told you guys this before, 16 ounces of coffee. I hit it within 45 minutes of getting up, probably within an hour of getting up. I've got that coffee in my hand. And let me tell you, I start my day with it. Every single day. Coffee is my, I guess I could say my lifeblood. But you know what? If you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has just dropped. They keep saying just dropped, but it's been around for a little bit. Not very long, but long enough. They only have a limited number of units. And in that starter kit, you're getting the Bull Dark Roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the Smooth Medium Roast, and also the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus. You get to try all three styles and then decide which one is the one that you want to go with moving forward. All of them are single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also going to get, and this is my favorite, gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You're going to get a frother that's strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but your mother-in-law's political opinions. And you'll also receive a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 Coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com / that's the question mark key on your keyboard. 1775coffee.com / studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. Once again, go to 1775coffee.com / studio, that's a / studio, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe. Go to 1775coffee. All of that is connected in one word. 1775coffee.com / studio, STUDIO, and grab the starter kit. That's 1775coffee.com / studio. All right. So let's get to this announcement by the DOJ and the FBI. All right. So everybody has been going on and on and on about this Epstein list. And, you know, everybody, of course, keeps talking about how Trump was connected. Trump was on Epstein's list. Trump flew on the Epstein plane. Well, yes, he did fly on the Epstein plane. He told us he flew on the Epstein plane. Yes, he told us he knew Epstein. But what isn't widely publicized is the fact that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. He volunteered to testify and provide information for the prosecutor in the first Epstein trial in Florida. That he severed ties with Epstein once he found out what Epstein was doing and attempting to do. But just like all conspiracy theories, everybody assumes that public photos of these two, which again are from a long time ago prior to the Florida trial, but hey, the lefties are grabbing onto that and they're saying that that is proof and evidence of the fact that he and Epstein were buddies. Because Donald Trump at one time did say that he knew who Epstein was and, you know, so on and so forth in some sort of a video interview. All of this stuff adds up to, oh, he and Epstein were just great pals. Folks, we need to follow the evidence. And what we've seen so far, oh, and that's the other thing. The left also talks about all these accusations that have come out of nowhere for all of these rich and powerful people. Well, let me give you a little hint. There are many people in this world who will actually use the rich and powerful as their scapegoats. And they think of them as their payday. And especially in today's society where all it takes is an accusation, unfounded and unproven, to cause somebody a bit of harm, you need to understand many people, especially the rich and famous, are like, hey, all they're asking for is, you know, $250,000. I'm a billionaire. I'm going to go ahead and give $250,000 because that doesn't mean anything to me. What I want is for this thing to go away. Now, I'm not saying that that happened in every single case here, but there have been cases that have been brought against Donald Trump that never actually made it to trial, one of which is a common one that everybody keeps talking about, Katie Johnson, who, by the way, Katie Johnson, as far as if anybody's going to be able to dig up dirt on somebody, you would think it would be a rag journalist, and I use that term loosely. But Katie Johnson was never discovered as to her actual identity, and the person who was pushing the story about it was tied to a popular reality TV show. He was a producer of this reality TV show. Now, for those of you that don't know, producers are always looking for the next big thing to be able to content create, and especially in those types of shows that thrive on sensationalism. These people are very creative in their methodologies. And nothing was ever proven. In fact, even Vox, VOX, and The Guardian, they both posted or both wrote articles where they basically said, yeah, we can't seem to verify any of this information. We can't seem to verify that this person actually even exists. And they're the ones that actually found the tie to the producer, because the producer was using a nom de plume. Problem that we have here, though, is we have to go off of specific facts and evidence. Okay? And unfortunately, as of right now, we don't have very much of that other than the stuff that we have already generally seen that has been publicly available. Now, whenever you deal with something like this, and you're having to deal with somebody or something that is, again, a conspiracy theory, and you don't have evidence in front of you, you have to decide whether or not the people who are giving you the evidence and saying that of this evidence, this is all that we have, and everything else, there's nothing there, you need to evaluate their veracity and whether or not that person can be trusted. So I'm going to ask, folks, because here's the deal. Okay? Here's the deal. Adam Schiff was pushing a Russian collusion hoax for years. He still talks about it. He still, in his mind and in his whatever, believes that Donald Trump is a Russian asset. And there are leftists who believe it. And the evidence that was brought to everybody's attention has completely been debunked. It has been demonstrated to have been falsely put together, and now everybody knows. And even, I mean, it's even to the point where Adam Schiff got censured by his own people in the House of Representatives saying, yeah, you know what, you're censured for lying because you kept telling us that you have all this evidence and yet never brought it forward. Now, juxtapose that with the situation that we have today. Pam Bondi made a mistake. She inadvertently, for whatever reason, stated that she a assumption put together, a very clear assumption that everybody put together, that she had the quote-unquote Epstein list on her desk. Now, she did not name that. The person in the video interview said, hey, have you seen the Epstein list? Do you have it? And she says, I have it on my desk. Rather than clarifying, I have the Epstein files on my desk for review. And that was a mistake. And you could sit here and say, oh, Pam Bondi, you know, do we trust her? Do we not? Again, that's for you to decide. Kash Patel, same thing. Do we trust him or do we not? Now, I can sit here and I can tell you that either one of those two people, as far as I'm concerned, they are essentially based out of, you know, I kind of have to go off of somebody else's evaluation of their trustworthiness, because I don't know either one of those personally. Honestly, I don't even know Dan Bongino personally. But I will tell you this. Based on all of the time that I have spent watching his show, listening to the things that that he has put out, I get the feeling, and also not only that, but hearing from other people who are friends of Dan Bongino, who also have the same general level of integrity, who are all basically backing him up. I have the feeling, and at this time, until proven otherwise, have the belief that if Dan Bongino says there's no evidence here, there's no evidence. If Dan Bongino says there's no list, there's no list. And unfortunately, in a situation like this, because this thing has been hanging out ever since Trump first went down the golden escalator. So we're talking, let's see, his 4, 8, 10 years, 10 years worth of all kinds of things that would be running around all over the place, that have made the rounds on social media, and every once in a while it comes back. And all I can tell you is this: the people who are in the know, who have actually seen the evidence, whatever evidence there is, firsthand, are all telling you, number one, that Epstein did commit his own suicide, that he was not suicided, like everybody seems to think, that Hillary Clinton, slipped in and wanted to save Billy Boy. And the second thing is that maybe, just maybe, this guy, Epstein, for his sick, twisted life that he was in, was potentially living the lie that he was attempting to show to the world about everything that's going on. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I believe that something could come out at a later date? Sure. Do I think that there's anybody on this supposed list? Yeah, I'm sure there's people who are there on some sort of a contacts list or whatever. But did Epstein actually sit there and was he actually prostituting all of these girls out? I don't know. Now, was there a misstep with this passing out of the binder? Yep. I think that was a mistake. I think what they needed to do was they needed to go through everything, and they needed to basically say, hey, look, we've looked through everything. We found files. They did find files in the New York FBI field office, reportedly, and that was the 1,000 pages that they've been dealing with and digging through. Do I think that there could have been potentially powerful people who definitely went out to his island? Sure. Do I think Trump is on it? Absolutely not. Do I think the client list exists? That I don't know. Now, keep in mind, too, that there was several years, 4 to be exact, that the Democrats, had they had anything on Donald Trump, and look at everything that they tried with Donald Trump, every single thing, they had to even make up the fact that he was covering up some sort of nebulous crime and take it to New York State and sit a jury and tell the jury, you don't even have to find him guilty on any one of these charges. You can just pick one and it doesn't matter. That they had a judge who was predisposed to rule against him. All of these things that have been going on would add up to this. If the Democrats really had anything, after having the information for 4 years on the FBI, if they'd have really had something on Donald Trump or any Republican, it wouldn't even had to have been Donald Trump. If there actually was a Epstein client list that had their political enemies on it, you don't think that they would have produced it by now? Put it out in the public sphere? Demonstrated that they had the information? Not Adam Schiff style, where he says, oh, I have the information, and then never showing his hand. I'm talking about the type of veracity and the type of just absolute hatred for your political opponents. Any kind of dirt that they could have created on Trump, they tried. Yet not once did his name and Epstein's client list come out. What's the point of all this? Now, do I think it leans a little bit toward credibility? Sure. Was it a misstep? Yeah. Talking about the client list and saying that it was available, saying that it was there? Yep. Absolutely. But sometimes in the heat of the moment, there's times where you just go ahead and say something. And also, too, keep in mind, talking about Pam Bondi here for a second, keep in mind that most people, when they're in a conversation with somebody, your mind is already thinking about the next thing that you're going to say, not necessarily listening to what the individual is finishing up with. Your mind has already come up with the next rebuttal or the next comment. And so she may have very well fallen into that. Now, here's the other thing. Was Epstein trafficking girls? Probably. And he was going to jail for it. Which is part of the reason why he committed suicide. Was Ghislaine Maxwell a part of that? Yes. But there is a possibility that the two of them were living a lie. That they were talking about all the people that they knew, who were all the famous people and everything else that they knew, because they were trying to pump themselves up. So until the conspiracy theory can actually become a conspiracy with actual facts and evidence, it's kind of hard for a lot of people. You can believe whatever you want. I mean, I certainly have been like, well, you know, this guy is pretty evil. And yeah, he apparently was connected to a bunch of people. Sure, it's entirely possible he could have been doing this. But when the facts come out, a wise person knows that things change from being a conspiracy theory to, yes, it is a conspiracy, or no, it's not. And when you don't have all of the facts in front of you, and you have somebody whom you provide a little bit, or assign, I should say, a little bit of trust to, saying there's no evidence here, you have to make your choice. You have to make your choice. Do you believe that person, or do you jump off the cliff and go, no, I don't believe that person anymore, regardless of how many times that person has demonstrated not only truthfulness, but also demonstrated their own integrity? So I leave it up to you folks to decide, but I got to tell you, I honestly, this kind of a result really is not surprising to me. And if you think the evidence was destroyed, if you believe that the FBI had way too much time ahead of time, like the 4 years that the Biden administration was in, yeah, you could certainly believe that. I can't disprove or prove a negative. Nobody can. You can't prove that the evidence existed if it's been destroyed. But the question that you must ask yourself is, if that evidence was destroyed, why was it destroyed? And I guarantee you the conclusion that you come up to is that the evidence, if it was destroyed and if it existed in the first place, had to have been much more leaning of the people, much more leaning toward the people who actually did the destruction of the document, and not necessarily this administration who is trying desperately to uncover it. The answer is we'll never really know, unless Ghislaine Maxwell actually opens up her mouth and people can actually assign any kind of truth, and she can corroborate that information on her own. Because the only other person who would know, apparently, by all available evidence, committed suicide. All right. I got to move on, so I'm not going to. So let's get on to this idea that Elon has about launching a new political party, and I want you to learn, or I want you to listen to Scott Jennings. I love Scott Jennings on CNN. He's the only voice that I would actually listen to on CNN. I can't stand the rest of them, so I only like the clips from CNN in terms of that. But I want you guys to listen to what he says about this whole idea of this political party. Take a listen.
It's harder than it looks to start a political party, and we'll see where they go with it. My humble advice to Elon, who I admire very much, actually, is that you may be dividing the forces of people who want to save Western civilization to the benefit of the people who don't. And so to the extent that this effort would divide conservatives and Republicans against each other, that would be helpful, because it would leave the country to people who want unfettered immigration, who don't share your fiscal views, and so on and so forth. So we'll see where it goes. I sort of hope everybody puts the band back together the way they had it back in 2024, because when everybody was working together, things worked quite well.
So here's the thing. I agree. I think Scott Jennings has a very, very good point here. Scott Jennings points out, like most intelligent people, our party is such, at least whether it started out that way or not, our political spectrum started out clearly broken up with multiple parties, and even the founders abhorred the idea of political parties. But nonetheless, the parties created themselves and existed, and throughout time, we ended up with a system where we have basically two political parties. And things have changed. I mean, the original Constitution had the Senate coming from the state legislatures. That changed. Now the people vote for the senators, for their senators. I personally think that was a mistake. The idea of the setup where you have the president and vice president coming from the same political party, that changed, because it was originally whoever were the top two vote getters, regardless of political party, were the president and the vice president. You could essentially have a Republican president and a Democrat vice president when our country was founded, if that were to continue today. But the thing about political parties, regardless of what you think, is that, yes, there are some challenges. And you see this every single time you end up with a possibility of a Democrat getting into office, or an independent attempting a run. All this does is break coalitions that, of course, powerful coalitions that allow the other coalition the opportunity to take it. Now, if you could get a third political party and everybody would be evenly divided, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, well, we have a bit of a problem, because our political system is not built to have it set up as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. We are not a parliamentarian kind of system where you have to cobble together, like Israel does, or even in the UK, where you have to cobble together some sort of a coalition between multiple political parties and have, representatives from every party in the government. You could, if it was just for Congress, by the way, that part would work. A multi-political party could potentially work in Congress. But when it comes to things like voting for the president, yeah, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And even if it comes down to voting for the president, a third political party, or even a fourth political party, or fifth political party, none of our mechanisms for voting for the president actually function in that kind of manner. Now, if you want to create another political party and only focus on House or Senate seats, hey, that could probably work somewhat. But even within the House and the Senate, you have political caucuses, where right now the Democrat caucus within the House has independents caucusing with the Democrats. And so this idea of adding a third political party, as Scott Jennings pointed out, is very difficult to get done because even right now, the Constitution Party, which I have taken a close look at, they are the ones that more closely align to my personal political values and beliefs than the Republican Party does. But the challenge that you have is the Constitution Party isn't even accepted, or I should say, recognized within all 50 states as a political party. There are several states, including my state of Washington, where they don't have a physical state representative or state person here, that you have to default going up the chain to the regional person. And this is the problem with having these political parties. Now, Ben Shapiro talked about this today in his podcast, and he actually suggested, and I think this is a absolutely fantastic idea for two reasons. His idea is basically saying, hey, Elon, forget the third party idea. Back a convention of states. Now, here's the reason why I say this would be a fantastic use of money, and I agree with Ben Shapiro in this particular scenario. Because as of right now, if you want to set anything about term limits in Congress, if you want to set anything about budget amendments, meaning that that the government can't pass any more laws until a budget is, balanced, or if you want to do something like, hey, the federal budget can only be a certain amount of total GDP. A percentage of what our GDP makes. If you want to make any of those kinds of changes, the Constitution has two methodologies in doing this that can occur. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a problem kicking that thought out. The Constitution under Article 5 states two ways where you can change the Constitution and, of course, change the form of government. The first one is that Congress proposes the amendment. 2/3 of each house agree, and then it goes to the states for a 3/4 of the states' ratification. That is the typical way that we have gotten all of our amendments off of. But there is a second. It's called the Convention of States. And the purpose of the Convention of States is basically to create a pathway for the general public and the states themselves to cobble together or come together and make absolutely certain that Congress does what the people want. Because as of right now, if you think your representative is representing you, I know mine aren't. I know absolutely mine aren't, but that's because I am a conservative living in a leftist-run state. And I am outnumbered by my neighbors in terms of how things are voting. But if you want to get things done, if you want to change the Constitution and Congress is refusing to do it, the only path forward is the Convention of States. If Elon Musk thinks that a third party is actually going to change things, like Scott pointed out, it's not. Because think about this. If you go to the America Party, and by the way, I already have some questions in terms of how Elon is already talking about upholding the Second Amendment in one fashion and yet making it so that assault rifles, he calls assault rifles, which, by the way, there isn't any assault rifles anymore. They've already been banned. But he believes that semi-automatic rifles, everybody who has one should have a license for it. I have problems with that, being the fact that the Second Amendment has on there saying shall not be infringed. So I already have questions about Elon's party. But here's the thing. The only way that the people realistically are going to get anything changed in terms of the Constitution, anything changed in terms of the government itself in a peaceful fashion, is a convention of states. And if Elon Musk can put his platform, his money behind that, we're already close to getting, I think the last count, the states, that we were about halfway there. We need 3/4 of the states in order to call it. Doing something like that would be, in my mind, would be a better use of not only time and energy and also money to get that done. And then we could have the opportunity to modify the Constitution in the proper way and get things like term limits or budget amendments such that the budget is tied to our gross domestic product numbers, or cutting out taxes, changing the 16th Amendment and getting rid of income taxes, or all of these other things that everybody keeps talking about. That to me would be much better. A much better use and a potential more effective use than creating a third political party. Anyway. All right, folks. That is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, don't forget to hit those thumbs up or thumbs down if you really want, across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, and Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night for Whiskey Wednesday. I do not have a pet of the week, so if you're planning on submitting one, get it in. Send it to fans@americanperspective.online. We will see you tomorrow night for Whiskey Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.